The 108th U.S. Open Cup will conclude on Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time at Miami's DRV PNK Stadium, with Miami hosting the Houston Dynamo. Let's look at the odds for this final. I'm looking at the odds right now at Bet365. Miami comes in as -110 favorites to win in regulation. The draw is at +250, while Houston are big long shots at +280. To win this cup by any means, so that's regulation, extra time, or in penalties, Miami are huge -225 favorites, with Houston coming in at +162. Now, if you just wanted to bet the over 2.5, it's -175. The under is +135. A bet on both teams to score, -175. Both teams to score no, +150. Now let's look at Miami. They are 12-1-2 since Messi and all the new players joined earlier this summer. Still, they're 14th though in the East, and they're 5 points back of the playoffs. So they still do have that goal in mind as well as the season winds down, not just this U.S. Open Cup final. They drew 1-1 in Orlando on the weekend though. That was without Messi and Jordi Alba, who were both out injured. Also, Busquets was rested. Tata Martino rotated as well, with Farias only coming in later in the game, and he also rotated the center backs at halftime. However, they were leading 1-0 with David Ruiz scoring in the 52nd minute, but they did give up the tying goal just moments later in the 66th minute. Now, they've still only failed to score, though. Miami won one time in those 15 games, and that was a 0-0 home draw with Nashville. That's also the only home game where they didn't score multiple goals. All the other games, them at home being them scoring 3 or more goals. Miami got to the U.S. Open Cup final, being on the road, going on the road to their neighbors, Miami FC of the USL, and winning in a shootout in the third round. After being drawn 2-2, they beat Charleston 1-0 at home, also a USL team in the round of 32. They beat Nashville 2-1 at home in the round of 16. Birmingham away, another USL side, 1-0. And then Cincinnati of MLS away in PKs after being drawn 3-3 in the semifinal. Now for Houston, they're 4th in the West, so doing much better in the league. They are 12-7-11. Now, if any team, though, would have wanted to be playing this game at home versus on the road, it would be Houston. As Houston's 43 points this season, 33 of those have come at home, where they are 10-3-2, and they've outscored their opponents 31-10. That's the most home points of any team in the West, and only Cincinnati with 40, Columbus with 36, and New England with 34 have more home points overall. Away from home, the Dynamo have one of the worst records in MLS this season at just 2-4-9, and they've been outscored 25-11. Those 10 points are only better than Colorado's 9, Montreal's 8, and Toronto's 4. Recently, Houston had a road loss on Saturday to Sporting Kansas City as they lost 2-1. However, prior to that, they actually were playing really well. They were 5-2-0 in all competitions, and they had outscored those opponents 18-3, which did include a road draw and also a road win, which was very rare for them. In fact, they had been undefeated in their past 3 on the road prior to that SKC loss. In all 3, they had kept clean sheets, as well as in 4 of 6 on the road. But prior to those 6, they had conceded in 20 straight road games. So they have a few games recently where they've been playing a little bit better, but overall, Houston's been incredibly poor when they're not at home. To get to the U.S. Open Cup final, Houston beat Tampa Bay of the USL on the road 1-0. They beat SKC 1-0 at home in the round of 32. Then Minnesota at home 4-0 in the round of 16. However, Minnesota did play most of that game a man down after taking a red card. They beat Chicago 4-1 on the road in the quarterfinal, and they beat RSL at home 3-1 in extra time after the teams were drawn 1-1 in regulation. Houston, they did recently win the U.S. Open Cup in 2018 against Philadelphia. If we want to look at the scoring props and the odds for this game, the top anytime scorers in this game look to be Leo Messi at clear odds-on favorite at -163. His teammates Leonardo Campagna and Joseph Martinez are next at +140 and +160. Now, with or without Messi, both could offer some better value at those odds, considering Messi may not play and he hasn't scored in any of his last 3 games with Miami. Now, Houston's Amin Bassi is the first Dynamo player listed. It comes in at +187 odds. Miami's Facundo Farias rounds out the top 5 at +200. Now, other Dynamo players that come in the top 10 are Ibrahim Aliou and Thorleif Ulfarsson at +240 and Corey Baird at +250. The Dynamo don't really have any standout scorers this season. They're more of a scoring team by committee. Bassi leads the team with 9 goals, and Baird is next with 7. Despite having 2 goals and 1 assist 2 games ago against Toronto, Miami's Robert Taylor is priced way down at +350 odds, so he could offer some value if he gets into this game. When it comes to the picks, a lot of this has to center around the status of Messi and Alba, and maybe even Busquets, who didn't play on the weekend either. Messi and Alba missed training on Tuesday, so that does cast some doubt in their availability for the final. Certainly doesn't look very likely that they'll start. It's tough to know how much, if any, they will play. Now, without some or all of these guys, Houston may like their chances of controlling the midfield with Hector Herrera, Coco Carrasquilla, and Artur. That they do is their bread and butter for Houston, is that midfield trio. Houston had been hot in the MLS, but they lost to KC this weekend despite being a player up. They were down 1-0 early. Then SKC took a red card in the 39th minute, and SKC still scored again against Houston in stoppage time before Houston got one back of their own in stoppage time to make it 2-1. But then the Dynamo had an entire second half to try to level or take the lead, and they couldn't despite being a man up. So that doesn't inspire a whole ton of confidence going into Miami to try to take down the Herons. But prior to that SKC loss, Houston had been rolling, and Miami does seem to just be slowing down a little bit. They are only 3-2-1 in their past 6. That's still good, but based on how they played when Messi and everybody joined at the beginning, just not quite as good. They've also conceded a goal in 4 of the past 5, and that one game where they did keep a clean sheet was against Toronto, which doesn't say much, and Toronto did create plenty of scoring chances before that game got out of hand, and Miami eventually won 4-0. Now, oftentimes, finals in many sports can be tight, but recent U.S. Open Cup finals have all seen 3 or more goals in each of the past 5. Last year, Orlando won 3-0. The home team has also prevailed in each of those past 5 finals. Miami certainly is the team with more star power, and they do have the home field advantage, but Houston may be the better functioning unit overall, but they are generally very poor on the road. They should be good enough, I think, to at least get a goal here, as Miami doesn't keep a ton of clean sheets, especially if Messi and Alba can't go or are limited. But if we get a full Messi and a full Alba, certainly Miami at home looks like a good bet to lift this trophy. But as it stands, not knowing their statuses, I think we could see a game that's maybe a little bit closer than some might think. So I think the best bets here would be both teams to score, -175. Or if you want some better odds, we might even see some extra time in this game, so we can take a draw at +250. Now, who do you think wins in the U.S. Open Cup final? Let me know in the comments below, and good luck, everybody, with your U.S. Open Cup picks on Wednesday.